So in the spirit of transparency, I know that I talk a lot about self-help and dating and things like that. I've decided that I think it would be quite useful to share with you guys from personal lived experience, because that's where I'm coming from with all of my advice. And that's kind of my whole purpose with these videos, is to tell you the things that I've learned. So I'm going to tell you 10 things that I learned from being in a situationship of a fairly significant amount of time. But these are the core things that I think that women in particular, but also men, if you've been in a situationship, kind of need to learn. And you can learn from the things that I learned from, and hopefully you'll waste less time on a situationship. So here we go. I've written them down because I had quite a lot of thoughts about this, and obviously I've done a lot of videos about situationships recently. So here we go. Let's dive on in. So, number 1, you can't be the cool girl or the cool guy. So what I mean by that is sometimes you'll have found when you like somebody, you're like, I can manage this situation, this inconsistency. You try to make sense of it. So you try to say to yourself, I can be cool, I can be chill, I can just like see where it goes. But you can't, because what happens is internally you start managing the connection. You're trying to keep the peace. You're trying to avoid any conflict with this person, because conflict means that you have this shutdown, this bounce back all the time. So you've learned to not communicate your needs, to be the cool person. And that takes a toll on your body, because you are keeping your feelings a secret. You're not expressing how you feel. You're trying to avoid conflict. Every time they're inconsistent, your body is trying to make logical sense of that, trying to make excuses for that, trying to figure out what that is. And that's really taxing and draining on your body. It is not your job to be the cool person all the time, to be the chill person, okay? You don't need to be the cool person. Number 2, when you're in a situationship, you are very scared of losing the person and losing the connection. But the reality is you cannot lose a person or lose a connection that doesn't really exist. So for example, if you've been in a situationship for a while, you have a fantasy of this relationship, of this person, not the reality, because the reality is it's never gotten off the page, it's never started, hence why it is a situationship and not a relationship. So you are scared of something that doesn't exist. You can't lose something that you never had, because it never had tangible roots in the real world. So just remember that next time. Number 3, if you're having a situation and it never ever goes into the real world, you don't meet up in the real world regularly, you don't date regularly, and this is what you're finding in this relationship, this is at the beginning of this connection, right? So if you're finding that now they struggle to actually want to integrate this into the real world, that is your warning sign. Because if they can't do it now when the stakes are really low, when you're not working against people's schedules, kids, everything else, the whole more complicated that life could be. If you're in the really early stages of dating and they can't commit to that consistency now, they never will, because the stakes are so low now. And if they're not prepared to do it now, they aren't ever prepared to do it. So unfortunately, you waste a lot of time thinking, oh, well, maybe this will go into the real world, maybe this will get better. The reality is, sweetheart, it won't get better. If they can't be asked to meet you in the real world now, it isn't going to get better. Accept that. Number 4, if your family and friends think they are not that into you, then the reality is they're not that into you. So what I've put here is that your family and friends can see how they treat you, and they don't have the rose-tinted glasses. So if you find that people are saying, they treat you with disrespect, they're not consistent, they're not what you're looking for, they're not a very nice person, they only hit you up when they want something, listen to what they say, because even though it's painful and you like this person, they're not emotionally attached to this person. So they're seeing from the outside that the other person is saying to you, jump, and you're saying how high, okay? And you're trying to defend somebody who's not actually treating you very nicely. And it's horrible when you have feelings for them. But think about if your rose-tinted glasses weren't on, the fact that they only text you on a night out, the fact that they treat you like a hookup. Your friends and your family can see that, and they're only raising that with you because they care about you, and they know that's not what you're looking for. So listen to your friends and your family when they tell you that somebody's not really worth your time, because they probably have a valid point. Number 5, This person knows exactly what they're doing. They already know your worth. They already know everything you bring to the table. They know exactly what you're asking for, which is a consistent relationship. But their hot and cold behaviour with you, the fact they skirt around all of these situations, they don't commit to anything in the real world, they don't take accountability, that is a choice because they are trying to get the benefit of you without the commitment. They are trying to get access to you. So don't think in your head, don't make excuses for them. Oh, well, they're just so busy, or, you know, they're not really, they don't understand what I want. So maybe if I communicate to them, they might understand what I want and then we can be on the same page. No, they're not dumb. They know exactly what you're looking for. They're just not prepared to give it to you. And therefore, that's why you're in this will you, won't you phase, because they want the access. They don't want to come out and say, no, I don't want anything with you, because they know you'd walk away. So they have to kind of be in this, oh, I'm not sure, and make you feel like you need to do more so they can still get access. So just accept they know what they're doing and they're doing a very good job of it. And the more you give them access without any effort, the more they're going to take from you. So just accept that this situation, you are essentially being used. Number 6, if you tell them that you feel lonely in this connection, you feel insecure, you need to feel more secure, you need certain things from them to feel more relaxed in the connection, and their response is either defensiveness, point scoring, trying to say who is doing what wrong, or that that's your fault, you're asking for too much, then you need to understand that what that is communicating to you is that they're not emotionally mature enough for a relationship. And you need to accept that. You cannot force people to grow into emotional maturity. It's fundamentally not going to happen. If they're not in a position to say, actually, the reason you feel insecure is because I actually haven't met your needs and I've repeatedly not done that. If they're not willing to own up to that part and they say, actually, it's your fault, your insecurities are your fault, it's because they don't have the emotional maturity to take on the work that is required for a healthy, normal progression of a connection. Because a healthy, normal progression of a connection is when two people problem solve together and say, okay, you feel that way, let's explore why, let's change that to make it better, because you both want the actual thing, the connection, to carry on working. If someone's not emotionally mature, they don't care about whether the connection works, they care about winning, or they care about manipulating you into believing it's your problem rather than actually fixing. That's not going to change. They're not suddenly going to grow in maturity overnight. So just accept that, accept it's at a disconnect with you, and move on. Number 7, waiting on potential isn't cute. So potential is essentially just empty promises and wasted time. When you say this could be, think about that and say to yourself, well, how long has it been this way though? It could be. Anything could happen. A pig could fly across the window, right? It could happen. But how long has it not happened for? And that's your reality check. If it's been 10 months, 2 years, 6 months, whatever it is, if it's consistently staying in the it hasn't happened yet, then your potential is not cute. It's just robbing you of time. So as soon as you start to say to yourself, actually, yeah, I've wasted 6 months where it's not gone anywhere. If it was meant to go somewhere and they were really into me, it would have gone there, because they would have decided to sit down with me and say, well, how do we move this? Because that's where I want it to go. I want it to go somewhere. So, you know, you're just wasting your own time. You're not figuring out the fucking matrix with this person. This what if has never happened for a reason, because there is not 2 people in the connection who want it. There's only 1. Number 8, this connection is you repeating a childhood wound. So for example, a pick-me wound, an abandonment wound, a rejection wound. It is not a soulmate. It is not a twin flame. You need to remove all romance and think about reality. So all over the internet it's plastered, this is your twin flame, this is your journey, you're meant to be together. No. If somebody's triggering something in you, it is usually a childhood wound. So I found that a lot of casual or situationships or whatever I've been in, it is literally a repeat in a childhood wound. It is literally that people-pleasing thing. It is literally having no boundary control. It is someone being inconsistent, and your body is used to inconsistency because people have been inconsistent with you your whole life. You register that weirdly as safe when it's not. So it's literally the universe saying you need to work on this. Inconsistency and bad treatment you are used to on a intrinsic childhood based level. We need to get rid of this because that's not healthy. They're not your soulmate. Number 9, being in a situationship actually teaches you so much self-growth and self-respect, because what happens is you learn the art of developing boundaries through a situationship because you have no other choice. So you get to a point where you kind of learn that chemistry on its own is not enough. You learn that you can walk away because regardless of how amazing the connection is and the physical intimacy, you know you're worth better than this, and your self-respect kind of switches on and you say, actually, I'm looking for a relationship. I'm looking for someone that can show me respect, consistency, and an in-person connection. And your body actually gets tired. It gets tired of this inconsistency, and it says, do you know what? I want more than this, and I'm worth more than this. And even if I fancy you, even if I have deep feelings, this isn't enough for me. So weirdly, the lesson kind of completes when that self-respect cycle happens. And that's actually a really beautiful thing when you kind of learn self-respect through lived experience. But just remember that slow building is a basic requirement of a healthy relationship. Meeting in the physical spaces, having consistent communication, understanding each other's emotional needs and getting to know them, and building trust, that is fundamental for a healthy relationship to flourish. It's not a negotiable, and it is not you asking for too much. It's just the other person doesn't want a relationship. So all of those things, they're just like, nah, I don't want to do that because I just want sex or I just want emotional intimacy off you. But I don't want all that relationship stuff because that's the work bit. So just accept that it's not necessarily that they're wrong or you're wrong. You're looking for a beautiful, healthy connection. They're currently not looking for that. It's a mismatch. Walk away. And number 10, which I think is a really important one, is your emotional intelligence, your emotional depth, your sensitivity, and your desire for deep intimacy and connection with somebody. That is your superpower. That is not a weakness. If somebody is telling you that all of those things that you want, real world connection, deep emotional intimacy, to really connect and understand each other, if they are saying it's too intense or you're asking for too much or it's not realistic, you need to chill, that is not because what you're asking for is wrong. You're just asking the wrong person. And what is interesting is they will try and character assassinate you about those things because they actually don't have the capacity, the maturity to hold you. So actually the irony is they don't want you to realize that you are more powerful than them because you have this beautiful emotional depth, and they don't know what the fuck to do with it because they are not. They're emotionally stunted. They're emotionally immature. That is a huge, powerful energy, and they don't know what the fuck to do with that. So they have to tell you that that is bad or needs to be dumbed down because they simply cannot hold your brilliance. They don't know what to do with it. So to them, they want you to believe that it's a fault when actually it's a huge strength. And then I just wanted to reiterate, I've written this down because I think this is really, really important. So just a reminder that connection and romantic relationships are not meant to be a really hard slog. You'll face challenges, but it is not meant to be hard. If you feel like you're pushing for something and all you're getting is resistance, it's not meant to be like that. A relationship should feel like the other person is capable and can carry 50%. 50% of the relationship, 50% of the plans, 50% of the momentum of the relationship, 50% of its emotional depth, 50% of the support, 50% of the consistency, okay? If you feel like somebody doesn't give you that, if you feel like you're essentially somebody's cheerleader, their emotional support person, or as I've coined recently, their virtual cup of tea at the end of the night, that they don't speak to you at all during the day or check in with you, they just pop you a text every evening or every couple of evenings at a time to just debrief when they're having their moment before they go to bed, and you're their virtual cup of tea, their comfort, right? That is not love. It's not romance. That's not a soulmate. It's not a deep connection, okay? That is a fantasy where somebody is trying to get access. You are a fantasy because you live in this theoretical space where there is no actual tangible real life connection, and that person is trying to see whether they can get access. Okay, so it's like you playing on your games or you scrolling on social media, just checking in, but without actually any depth to it. What I want to remind people, as someone who's been there and got the t-shirt in situationship land, These type of connections where it's all fantasy, they, you know, on a night out, they'll hit you up, they'll say how amazing the physical connection is, but they never want to go meet for a coffee in the real world. The reality is, and I'm going to have to hold your hand when I tell you this, there is 0% chance that this will end in a fulfilling relationship. They will dangle a carrot indefinitely. They will guarantee a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for you. But I am here to tell you, the carrot is not there. The pot of gold is not there. The relationship is not there. It will never go into a relationship because that person just wanted access. They didn't actually want a real world connection with you. So when you fundamentally accept that, along with all these other things that I've kind of talked about in this video, you will understand that the situationship will lose complete control over you when you understand that it is purely a situationship. It is never going to be a relationship. This person knows exactly what they're doing and they don't want to be with you. Brutal as it sounds, when you accept that, the whole dynamic of the situationship dissolves because you were the one that was feeding it with this idea of potential. The other person wasn't. They were just seeing how much they could get out of you before you realise that, unfortunately. So when you do say, oh fuck, like this is actually going nowhere, what am I doing here? Then this situationship will end. And yes, it's heartbreaking when you've invested and you really care about someone, but the minute you walk away, you just reclaim your power. And you've got all these beautiful life lessons as well, painful as they were, they're really important and they are great in how, you know, once you're able to process that emotional baggage of it, they're beautiful lessons. You've learned self-worth, you've learned boundaries, you've learned exactly what you want going forward, which is a healthy relationship. And by ending your situationship and doing that growth, you're one step further to getting that relationship that you actually want.